So in June, my wife and I boarded Amtrak's California Zephyr on our way to Reno for the N-Scale convention. This was also part of our vacation because after the N-Scale convention, we spent a week at Disneyland. So we went to Galesburg, parked our car there because we were taking the California Zephyr out, and our return trip, we would be coming home on the Southwest Chief. So Galesburg seemed like a logical place to park, so our vehicle would be at the same location when we arrived back home. Galesburg is a really nice town, has a neat little railroad museum, and then the Amtrak depot was right next to it. And so when we got to the depot, the train was about 28 minutes late, which for Amtrak wasn't too bad. I also used the app on my phone to track Amtrak's trains. So we had gotten Subway sandwiches, and our plan was that we were going to take them on board the train. Now, the problem was we were already hungry when we got to the station, so we decided we'll just make a little picnic out of it. And so we had our sandwiches and ate while we waited for our train to arrive. And as the boxcar says, everywhere west, and that certainly was what this trip was going to be like. We were going to all places west, it seemed. And sure enough, about 4:55, our train, number 5, the California Zephyr, came rolling in to Galesburg. And I had been watching the Galesburg rail cam at home for quite some time, and so had some of my friends who had lifted some pictures off the website and then sent them to me of Jennifer and I getting ready to get on board. And once on board, it was a great feeling knowing that we were vacation bound. And it wasn't very long, and within an hour, we were already crossing the Mississippi River, making our way back into Iowa with our first stop in Burlington, Iowa.
All right, folks, our next station stop will be Burlington, Iowa. If this is your stop, please gather your personal belongings, walk towards the very center of your car, head down the stairs to the train. Once again, everyone, Burlington, Iowa, our very first stop here in the state of Iowa. Burlington, Iowa, our next stop is Material.
Like right now, we're still in like a super primitive state and stuff. Imagine how much like
By the time we left Mount Pleasant, it was time to leave our coach seats and go to the Sightseer Lounge car just for a different view This is my favorite car on the whole train. We spent a lot of time there just watching the miles click by as we traveled across the country.
Welcome everyone to this boys here. California Zephyr, train number 5. Thanks for traveling Amtrak. All your restrooms are located downstairs in each coach car. Stay in the restroom, make sure you lock the door behind you and select the door. Don't forget, please make sure you lock the door behind you and select the door.
While on board the train, I met up with a friend, John Schaefer, who I met in Madison at an NMRA meet a few years ago. It was nice. He was heading out to the N-Scale convention. He was sharing photos of his layout progress, and so it was kind of nice to bump into him on the train and obviously bump into him a few more times during the convention in Reno. Around 9:30, we decided to leave the Sightseer Lounge and we headed back to our coach seats. Had downloaded some movies to watch for our trip. Got a view there of the Omaha station. And the next morning we woke up to Fort Morgan, Colorado. The track configuration in Denver is really kind of neat. It's like a big Y. So the train backs into the station. It has a scheduled layover there. So we got off the train a little bit, ran across these private passenger cars that were there. But I had never been to Denver's Union Station, so just kind of wanted to do a loop and see what it was like inside. It was a little bit of a cool morning, but it was all right. We just wanted to get some fresh air before we got back on board the train. As we headed back to the train, we stopped by our coach seats to pick up a few snacks and beverages, and then headed to the Sightseer Lounge car because we knew for the next 2.5 hours we did not want to give up our seat because we wanted to make sure we saw all the Rocky Mountains that we could, and this was the car to best see them in. Clean those windows good for being able to sightsee. Now we're just getting ready to leave Denver, and this is where I had my most concern about the trip. The BNSF is really always pretty accommodating to Amtrak in trying to keep them pretty close to schedule. However, I had been watching and tracking Amtrak for several weeks prior to our trip, and it seemed like everything from Denver West, when it's under the Union Pacific kind of dispatching, Amtrak could lose a lot of time and have a lot of delays. And so we got out of Union Station, we go by the Colorado Rockies baseball field, we go by the BNSF engine facility, and then we sat and we waited for about 20 minutes. But luckily, that was the only delay. Other than that, we started moving pretty well on the UP tracks the rest of the day. Finally, after sitting for 20 minutes on the Union Pacific Main Line, we start moving west again. At this point in our trip, we're about 15 miles west of Denver Union Station, and we are climbing an elevation as we're making our way up to what they call Big Ten Curve. We will continue to keep climbing all the way up to the Rockies until we hit Moffett Tunnel. That cut up there on the hillside, that's where we will be in just a matter of minutes. There was a Union Pacific coal train that was making its way down that grade, but I didn't get my camera out soon enough to watch it pass us on the other side of the train.
car already. Keep those doors closed, please. Want to make sure none of the fumes get into the train. Then our alarm before the new smell bad. Once again, folks, about 5 minutes out from the Moffitt tunnel. We're here for about 10 minutes. So if you do want to change cars, I would do so now. Once again, folks, all in the tunnel, please keep those doors closed. Thank you. Alright, folks, we're going to the tunnel now. Keep those doors closed, folks. Once again, do not open the 10 doors. By the end of the week, on the tunnel, we'll be here for about 10 minutes. 6.2 miles long. While in the tunnel, we go going to the Amtrak tunnel to 5. The tunnel is also the highest point in any Amtrak train in the whole system, which is called the tunnel. It's about 9,000 feet. Once again, folks, now in the Moffitt tunnel, keep those doors closed. Make sure none of the fumes get in. They're not talking. Once again, you just smell bad. Moffitt tunnel, here we go. About 9 a.m. and then around 4:30 we bring everyone back to Denver. So yeah, pretty cool experience and we're trying to see them. Again, folks, I'm over in the Moffitt tunnel. Folks, next up in about 10 minutes will be Winter Park and Fraser. Okay, folks, Winter Park and Fraser about 10 minutes. If that isn't stop by, you should kind of gather all your personal belongings. Make sure you check that overhead bin and that car in front of you. Winter Park Fraser will also get some fresh air, smoke breaks, and want to step off briefly. Grab some fresh air and your legs, feel free. If you don't want a car for the same, folks, don't leave the platform, please. Again, folks, very brief, feel free. You're going to want to leave anyone behind. Yeah, folks, Winter Park Fraser.
Prior to our trip, I had been watching some Amtrak bloggers, and they were telling stories of how it was pretty common for Amtrak to get delayed here for anywhere from 3.5 to 5 hours. And I was kind of hoping that was not going to be the case for us. And thankfully, it was not. We made our quick station stop. The station here is across the street in that building there. And then you just walk across the street and the platform is trackside. And so we picked up a few passengers and then we were on our way. Nice thing about Amtrak is you can get ice in their cafe area on the Sightseer Lounge car. So there was a lot of times we had our own pops and that, but they would be warm. You could go down and get a cup of ice. I would tip the guy a couple bucks, and you could still have your cold pop and that, which was nice. As I was looking out the window, I could see all the fencing. These are detection systems for rock slides, landslides, anything like that. And what was kind of scary is on May 12th and 13th, Amtrak actually canceled 2 of the trains due to rock slides and mudslides due to snow melt and all of the moisture they've had this past winter and spring. And of course, when that's less than a month from our trip, I was already worried, like, please don't cancel our trip, because the last thing I wanted to have to do was be riding a Greyhound bus to Reno as opposed to riding the train. We had been warned by the train crews that the river that parallels the tracks is well known for people that are rafting and that, but the people that are rafting also like to moon the train as it goes by. And needless to say, for the miles that we stretched along this river, we saw our fair share of people mooning the train. But don't worry, I didn't include any of those shots in this video. This was very interesting to have I-70 right across from us with the river kind of going underneath it like one long bridge. And then if you notice, right along the embankment is a bike path too that we followed all the way into Glenwood Springs. When we got to Grand Junction, it was a little bit longer stop, so we got off the train to grab some fresh air, stretch our legs, but they also mentioned that there was a small convenience store inside the depot. and we didn't need any snacks or any drinks, but we were looking to pick up a deck of playing cards just to pass the time. It was interesting as we came into Green River, Utah, to hear people talk about how much water that they have in their rivers and creeks and that they don't normally have. And so for this being totally new to us, this area, it was interesting to find that they were way above flood stages in some areas. As we pulled into Heber, Utah, there seemed to be plenty of power just sitting around that the Union Pacific had at its disposal to use. As evening approached, Jennifer and I always had a system worked out. We'd go down to the lower level of the cars to use the restroom and get ready for the night. I will say one thing that we both enjoyed is if the lounge bathroom or the handicap bathroom was available, we'd use those just because they were a little more roomier inside. Otherwise, the facilities were pretty nice. Each morning I would open my phone and check the app to find out where we were and if the train was on time. We just happened to be in Winnemucca, Nevada, so it was just going to be a few short hours and we would be in Reno. So we had packed some breakfast food, so we had some donuts, and as soon as we left Winnemucca, we ran into a slow order. This would normally be a kind of a dry desert area, and as you can see, the sand and a lot of the kind of, I don't know if it's sagebrush or what, has all been pushed over because of heavy rains and that. So there was a lot of kind of delays just to make sure, I'm going to guess that there was no washouts or bridges and that were still structurally sound. Here we are coming into Reno Yard. The Union Pacific has a pretty good sized yard here for classification of cars and intermodal service and that. Two towers there. That was our convention hotel, the Nugget casino and resort where the N-Scale convention took place. So 2412 was our floor, and our room looked over the tracks. Then in between the two towers was the convention center and that. And so myself and another gentleman I met on board the train that was also going to the N-Scale convention, he was like, could they just let us off here? It'd be a whole lot easier and would definitely save us a lift back to the hotel. When you get off the train in Reno, you're in the trench where they lowered the tracks below the street level many years ago. And so you have to go up an elevator to the station. We maxed out on the number of pieces of luggage for our 2-week trip on Amtrak, and they never questioned a thing about it, which was great. So we shared a lift with 2 other gentlemen that were headed to the N-Scale convention. It was great to get into the hotel room and get that fresh shower, and then Jennifer and I were ready to hit the ground running. And of course, from the hotel room, I could see right over the yard, so anytime I was bored, there was always something out there I could look at and see what was happening throughout the convention. I was amazed at how quick they load and unload these intermodal cars. Literally, truck would pull up with an empty trailer, he'd jump out of the cab, he'd pull the little lift pins or what out of the container below, he'd set them on the platform, he'd hop back in that truck, he'd pull ahead, and as he pulled ahead, the gentleman in the forklift is kind of positioning the container where it should go. The guy hops out of the truck again, he'll pull those little pins from that bottom container, sets them on kind of the walkway or platform on the intermodal car so they're ready when they get ready to reload, and it's done. I watched them unload these 4 cars that each were double stacked, and I mean they had it done within 30 minutes easily. And as soon as that truck pulled, there would be another one right there on the spot to grab the next container. They had a very interesting process down. Well, Jennifer and I are not big gamblers by any means. However, we did want to hit a couple casinos. Little did we know that the smoking was going to kill us, and so we didn't spend much time on the casino floor, but we found a great time in the arcade rooms. And so they had some of the arcade games from our childhood, so we spent some time there. We also did the Riverwalk in Reno. I mean, after being on the train for 35 hours, it was kind of nice just to get out and walk in that. And so the Riverwalk, obviously, the water was very high and moving very fast. And then later on that evening, we found a place to eat, and our way back to the hotel that we're staying at was this little museum. And so there were several things there we wanted to take pictures of that also tied in with some things that we teach at school as well. The next video in this series will be the Nevada State Railroad Museum, which was the early bird tour tied in with the N-Scale Enthusiast Convention. Thank you for watching.